Hey everyone, welcome back to LMI Podcast, Lawyers, Mediators International show and podcast, where we talk about the law and conflict resolution topics to educate the public, both professionals and everyday people. Today, I am with Jim Melamed. Jim, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. And you are the founder of Mediate.com. And I'd like for you to take us back a little bit to those days, but starting off with what is Mediate.com for people who don't know, and a little bit about yourself.
Well, real quickly, we go even further back than Mediate.com to something called ConflictNet in 1988, when we started selling email addresses and bulletin boards and talking about attachments. It was 96 when the internet went commercial. And in fact, January 1 of 96, when we opened Mediate.com, it was the first day we could do it. And the big reason for Mediate.com is we weren't just text anymore. We now had the graphical internet and browsers that really were able to hold multiple colors, images, audio, video. And with this multimodal communicational vehicle, John Healy, my co-founder of Mediate.com, and I made one observation that we were right about, and that is that every mediator and every mediation program would need a website. And we were prepared to be there very early on. And not only a website, but a website that the professional or organization could self-manage. This is a big deal. They didn't need to have a programmer in between them and their content. And not only could they self-manage a scalable website, but it was affordable. And so that was a great contribution. At its peak, we had almost 500 websites. And the challenge for us over time has been that there's many competitors when you're talking about websites. And so we've steered a little bit more into case management and online platforms. Mediate.com, I was CEO for 25 years. I turned the reins over to Colin in 2020. The thing that convinced me to do it was COVID.
Yeah.
With COVID, everything changed. We went from 10 to 15% of mediations being online to every mediation in America being online. You couldn't physically get together. It was prohibited. And so court programs, community programs, private practitioners all had to rise to the moment. And fortunately, we were assisted by Zoom to do that. Zoom became a meeting surrogate. But I do want to point out that through the previous 35 years of development, we had digitized the front end of the mediation. So mediators had websites, they communicated online, they scheduled online, they took payment online, etc. And on the back end, correspondence, drafting, track changes, DocuSign, satisfaction survey. The front end and the back end of the mediation had already become digitized, but what was the core was a physical meeting for most folks, and Zoom stepped in remarkably to fill that void. Final note there, we had an unprecedented mass training event with Zoom. Not only were professionals trained to use Zoom, but lay people for communicating with their own families and the like also were trained. So both the professional community as well as our market were trained over about 3 to 6 months' time on Zoom, which of course has gotten ever better along the way, now including the integration, for example, of AI. And I see what you're doing there is you're kind of scrolling through the homepage of Mediate.com.
Yep.
If folks are not familiar with Mediate.com, absolutely go out there. We've got over 15,000 articles, audio, video, you name it. There's also MediateUniversity.com, which is noteworthy for courses. And in terms of the topic we're talking about today, there was that picture of me on the homepage. If you just click on that, you can get to some other valuable resources.
Yes, definitely. I'll be sharing that. And so the first time I heard about Media.com, I think it was in 2017. Sad to say, I should have known more about it before, but I was not a mediator beforehand. I was just a lawyer. And whenever I wanted to find a mediator, I would have a colleague, somebody I know, because a lot of times lawyers become the gatekeepers to the
Mm,
mediation world. And people only know about mediations when the lawyers tell them, hey, we got to go mediate, or the judge is telling us to go mediate. And so every lawyer knows mediators. And this is why the show is called Lawyers and Mediators International, because we're all kind of in the same, bucket. However, completely different worlds. When I became a mediator in 2017, I'm at the South Texas College of Law, and I'm literally on Google, kind of finding ways I'm going to be able to market my practice. This is while I'm in the class.
mhm.
And that's when I started seeing media.com, and people were talking about it as well in the trainings. And so it's been said that media.com is the largest database, at least in North America,
Yeah.
of mediators or worldwide. So if you want access, then this is the place to go. Would you agree with that statement?
I would. Now things have changed a bit. One of the things that mediation used to be remarkably physical, including one's mediation marketplace.
Yeah.
So originally, folks would travel 25 or 50 miles, but often not more. Um, we got really, really good at mastering the SEO aspects of getting mediators business
Yep.
in their local area through a variety of approaches. Things have now changed with AI. Now, number one, things changed with the expansion of online mediation. So many mediators who used to practice locally
Yeah.
woke up one day and said, "You know something? I could do this statewide. I'm licensed, etc." So you've had a geographic expansion of practices. And then with AI, because a lot of our consumers are now they're not going to Google, to
Yep.
Google out who's my mediator in my
Directly
hometown.
to AI. Yeah.
They'll go to AI and they'll say, not only based upon geography or based upon geography to the extent I describe, would you actually look at all the mediators, in the world and identify the people who would be optimum for our dispute? And it's a
Yep.
much more embracing consideration. So now we're very much trying to rise to the occasion of making sure the mediate.com members are extremely findable, visible within the various AI platforms.
Yes, yes. So I did a recent training about just that, and I
Yeah.
was putting my own name into ChatGPT to see, well, you can't really tell it if you don't know who the mediator is, right? You have to, like you said, describe what you're looking for, and
Yeah.
it's going to do the educationing for you to let you be able to find someone they think. And so that's a whole new world and a whole new different topic that we can definitely touch on one day, because it's becoming more and more important to mediators who are taking AI very, very seriously.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's pivot over to the main talk for today. You recently, let me share my screen, of course. You had mentioned that on the homepage, there is a video link. So on the homepage of media.com right now, there is an article that is published here called The Digital Evolution of Mediation, AI Integration, and the Future. I found this on LinkedIn because you had shared it there as well. And so when you click on it, it will take you to a recent talk that you had given to the Will Work for Food program that's founded by our colleague Natalie. She actually has been on the podcast before, so shout out to her. But I was playing it, I was watching some of it, and I thought to myself, you know what, this would be really good to have Jim on so that he can talk a little bit about some of the points he made. So the video is pretty lengthy, so we're not going to go into the whole thing, of course. We're going to just get your thoughts on some of the important highlights that you feel that people should know about it from this video. And would you say it was a training?
Boy, it's where are we today as a
Yeah.
field? And because we are just really in a dynamic period with AI and needing to pretty much rethink everything we do. And so it was trying to bring people up to speed on
Yep.
what some of those issues are. Yeah.
Yes, and on when people go here, actually, it does have the AI audio podcast for presentation. And I know that you love putting the different things that Mediate.com puts out in different formats so that people can actually, get it. Could we speak about that for 30 seconds? Why do you do that? Actually, Colin Rue and I were having a chat, and he was telling me, oh, Jim Melamed loves putting things on the website using AI. So can you tell us why do you do that for the benefit of the public?
Well, one thing is I've taken about 150 of Mediate.com's absolutely best, deepest resources that were historical,
Yeah,
and I'm able, for example, to create a 20-minute AI podcast of them, which in addition to kind of modernizing the delivery and the information, um, every modality has its advantages. Audio is fantastic because you can listen to it when
while you
you're out
drive.
for your exercise,
Yes,
your walk, or when
exactly.
you're cleaning the house, or what have you. You'll notice for this particular resource, after they recorded the YouTube video, which is embedded, I also included the entire PDF program. It's 80 or 90 slides. That was fantastic and convenient because nobody needs to take notes.
Exactly.
It lets me also go much faster and gives me a real resilience in doing the presentation. Then, if only to drive people crazy, I say, hey, Notebook LM, look at this YouTube video. Please convert it to your best 20-minute AI audio podcast, and then that's there. And then additionally, Notebook LM is great. It'll give you all kind of different outputs in both text, audio, video now. And I said, hey, let's have a briefing document. People only have a couple minutes to get the essence of what's going on. Let's give them a briefing document as well. So it's a
Mhm.
little bit of a demonstration
Yep.
of our different available modalities. And if somebody's not attracted to a delivery, then they won't do it. And that's perfectly fine with me. I'm just thrilled to give them the option
Yes.
of accessing the information.
Yes. Well, that in itself is a mini course of sorts where you're basically showing by example how people can use AI to convey information,
Yeah.
right? Because it's all about communication and our business of mediation. And so this would be a great way for people to put information on their own website, that talks about them, their practice, and what they can do to assist the public. All right. And the other thing I will screen share, of course, will be the actual uh, document, an actual document that you've placed, Optimizing Mediation 1.0, the Mediate.com story, a memoir. And you basically take the reader through the history of Mediate.com and its journey. So can you tell us a little bit more about why you created this?
Well, things are changing so fast that I thought it made sense to consolidate the history here. And also, it just the stuff that I think is
Mhm.
most important if you really want to understand the current moment. We've come from what was a purely physical event of mediation in the 70s and 80s to something that for 80% or so of all mediations is a purely digital event now. And one of the things I've tried to do is track that development. There were six major disruptions. I'll go really quickly.
Yes.
There's the PC, which allowed us to infinitely edit and store content. There's the browser, the online internet browser, which holds all of our modalities of communication, text, image, audio, video,
Hmm.
and we can use those modalities either in real time, synchronous communication, or asynchronously. For example, if we send an email, that's an asynchronous delivery. They don't respond in real time. And in the world of mediation, I have found when you're really getting down to decision making, we don't necessarily want people at their first impulsive answer. Oftentimes, it's best to give them some asynchronous homework, some things to think about, to percolate on, to sleep on, and that if they get the assignment asynchronously and they have time to percolate and contemplate, we're going to not get them at their first. We're going to get them at their best, which is
Correct.
what we're looking for. Big move with mobility to the phone, having that capacity. And notice that that phone, for about 70% of internet users at mediate.com, at odr.com, they're accessing everything on the phone,
Mhm.
70%. So in terms of being effective, that's our real estate that we have to work with. So mobility also with the phone, communications became personalized. We're now in everybody's pocket or purse.
Yeah.
In the old days, phones were to places, and you really didn't know who would answer, and you didn't know what message to leave. Things have dramatically changed. The cloud was a huge development. We don't need to worry about updates anymore, nor storing the data. The cloud will do that. Zoom and COVID in 2020, massive development, and we have continued to have 75 to 80% of mediations exclusively online. And this is based upon participant preference and mediator
Yeah.
preference. Okay. I also want to mention, even if the folks get physically together, that's still an online case. You still want to do the online as capably as you can before the physical gathering as well as after. So every case is now an online case. And then in 23, 24, we've had AI emerge. And AI has gotten better, 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 and will continue to get better. It started out at about a high school level, then a college level. Now it's PhD and beyond. And AI, when you consult it now, it doesn't just give you an answer, its best answer. It suggests what your next questions might best be. So it's much more interactive and iterative
Yeah.
than it used to be. So uh, we'll briefly mention remarkable AI resources at mediate.com, courses in it, articles. I mean, if you want to place, in addition to your work, Mac,
Mm.
I think mediate.com has really taken responsibility for trying to keep everybody up to speed on what's happening with AI. And there's a tremendous amount. Um, I want to go where you want to go. At one point, I want to talk a little bit about prompting,
Yes.
and I want to talk a little bit about empowerment and optimization, but I'll let you take the lead with
Well,
me.
no, let's do it. We can jump right into it. So, when it comes to tech, if you had just limited time and you want to share some information with the public out there, specifically mediators who are wanting to do the best work, what would those things be?
All right. So one of the super cool things about AI is that for mediators, it's a marriage made in heaven. It's been said that the ideal mediator would do nothing but ask questions. Because if you do nothing but ask questions, we're eliciting all the responses. Now, I've modified that concept to say the ideal mediator would do nothing but ask questions and periodically strategically summarize. Okay, so I would add that piece in. But accessing what AI can offer us, and AI has an unprecedented opportunity for the mediation field, which for many of us is based upon concepts of empowerment and optimized problem solving. All right. So let me note some things that AI will not do on its own and that participants will not do on their own. So I now get a case, and the first thing I do is I ask the folks, have you done any AI research on this, or where are you at? And increasingly they have. And every mediator needs to be able to have that discussion with them,
Yeah.
meet them where they are relative to AI issues. Okay. Now, the cool thing is that AI, just like mediation, is based upon the inquiry. The quality of your answer will depend on the quality of your successive inquiries. It doesn't have to be all at once. But here are things that people will not do on their own. They will not adopt what I call a joint problem solving frame. For me, it usually starts out, how can we best, or what is the best way for us to, and then satisfy their
Mhm.
interest. They'll be thinking about their own individual
Yeah.
interest, not the whole. So the mediator can assist them to jointly inquire on behalf of both or all parties, okay? Second thing is they will often focus as much on the negative, things they want to avoid, or them feeling scorned and wanting revenge, okay, as
Yep.
opposed to what I would call the positive motivating interest. And
Yep.
one of my beliefs is that every participant ultimately is positively intended. And what I mean by that is we're biologic beings on Earth. Our job is to make our life ever better. It's not to make it more difficult or worse. So even when we're doing negative stuff, we're doing it because we think it'll somehow get us something, an apology, some
Yep.
appreciation, some respect. And what I want to do is identify the positive motivators for each side. And that's what we're going to feed into the AI consideration. Also, the parties will only, again, submit their interests, not the others. So it'll be the mediator that will be able to say, for you, it's A, B, and C. For you, it's D, E, and F. Let's inquire how we can satisfy all of those interests. Other little couple, I think, valuable suggestions. When you query AI, always do, as a mediator, always do it in the plural. Never ask for a single answer. You're asking for options,
Yep.
possibilities, solutions, exchanges. Okay. Always in the plural. It's an unbelievably great idea generator. And I find one of the best questions that the folks can ask is, okay, AI, now understanding the full breadth of what we're dealing with, what the folks want to accomplish, etc., what solutions have worked for similarly situated others? Okay. And these are what we might call normative stories. In the old days, the mediator might share
Yep.
some options and possibilities. Now we have the additional ability to brainstorm, to develop ideas with AI. And in fact, it's intriguing that those ideas are coming from different voices. It's not
Right.
the mediator. And so the mediator is a bit of a coach here in how we can optimize the inquiry of AI, and not just a single platform, but we may well have multiple inquiries. And the people can do this on their own also. So we can be a coach for them in optimizing the use of AI for purposes of their personal empowerment as well as optimized problem solving. Okay. Now I'm going to lead into my final little thing here, if you don't mind, which is I think most of us were drawn to mediation because of our experience of the dysfunction of the litigation system. You know, my first 2 years as a lawyer, we had the public defender contract in Eugene, Oregon. So I'm doing in custody arraignments every day, you know, like 10 clients. And I just started to feel like a cog. And when the one guy doing mediation in Eugene decided to move to Alaska, I said, that's my light bulb. That's what I'm going to get involved in. And the reason was I was convinced that we could have more satisfying and capable discussions and better results by the confidential, fully controlled mediation environment. And absolutely right about that. Okay. Well, AI is now extending this dramatically. And so for me as a mediator, my little model is I call maximizing mediation. Okay. I'm not only interested in maximizing substantive satisfaction, I want to assist the people to be at their best. You know, do they come to us at their best? I don't think they do. So not only do I want to do that, I'll have AI help me do that with them respectively. I want to assist them because I work in family, workplace, family businesses, increasingly tech companies. But in all of those, there's a historic relationship and there's a real possibility of future relationship as well. So I will also have AI assist me on how can we best mend this relationship? How can we best problem solve presently? How can these folks best work together in the future as well? And then with regard to substantive satisfaction, boy, what a wonderful thing it is for people to be able to query, even if it's just their mindset, to be sure that they're really doing the best they can. And, you know, especially for folks that can't afford attorneys, Oh my God, what a fantastic thing it is that they can go out there and get validation and get ideas using AI very affordably, if you will. So I'm thrilled about it. The combination of being online, Zoom, doing some real time, but a lot asynchronously, being able to integrate AI. I believe what is happening now is we, as mediators, are able to dramatically assist participants to experience themselves to be empowered
Yeah.
and informed, and we're able to dramatically assist their consideration of settlement possibilities. And for the mediation industry writ large, this ability to support participants' empowerment and to support optimized problem solving, it doesn't exist in any other process. You don't get that in litigation. You don't get that in arbitration. You now can get that in mediation. And I feel so passionately about this that I believe we should take a look at our standards of practice to be sure that we really speak to these issues of empowerment
Yeah.
and at least the goal of optimized problem solving. That's the aspirational goal. And from a business development perspective for the field writ large, our emphasizing empowerment and optimized problem solving are the two best hooks I can think to hang our coat on. One final comment. I've never found that people need to prevail. I've never yes, they're prepared for battle. That's how they've been trained by society. But it's not that they need to prevail to the other's loss. The thing I have found in mediation is people are unwilling to lose.
Hmm.
They don't want to be the fool. They don't want to be a chump. And so AI is so fantastic for fortifying people's satisfaction in mediation. Final two comments. I've never had a settlement where I couldn't point to what I call the string of pearls, some specific positive accomplishments that each party has gotten for themselves. And the other thing, I've never gotten a settlement where people haven't identified a face-saving rationale for, in fact, agreeing,
Yeah.
because they're not just there for themselves. Everybody reports to somebody, or somebodies, and they can't report, why did you settle on a dime when you were going to insist on a dollar? They can't say, I don't know. They're going to
There's a
come up.
reason for
And
it.
so
Yeah.
the ability of the mediator to work with the participant to identify what they in fact have accomplished, to come up with rationale. If they can't come up with a face saving rationale, they probably shouldn't settle. Okay. And this is the final thing. The goal of mediation is not necessarily to settle. There may not well be enough on the table to justify that. But certainly the benefit of mediation is to know what would be the best package that would be available through mediation. Because if we're going to engage in World War III in terms of litigation, let's make sure we're really clear about what we're rejecting, even if imperfect. And this is where mediation is so fantastic, ever more accessible, ever more affordable, and I believe the future.
Yes. Wow. This is why I like talking to you. It's
Yeah.
always so informative
And it's
and
moving so fast now. It's great.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Well, you and I think very similar about these
Yeah.
topics, and a lot of things you said, I was actually trying to write some things down. But empowerment and being informed, yes. Ultimately, I always talk about this the power can either be in the hands of a judge or the power can be decentralized and be in the hands of the participants who can then take it upon themselves to come up with the best option for them given all the alternatives. Okay, some of which may be worse, some of which could be better, but rarely is the unknown of what a judge might do best for people because
Yeah.
most people don't want to walk into a courtroom not knowing exactly how a judge or a jury might go. It's so much more empowering to have somebody help you like a mediator get to something that might be the best case given all the variables, and so that says a lot. This is why mediation with AI is a whole new world now. The sky's the limit on what we can do and what's possible, and getting people on board using tech and integrating technology into the mediations is something that for folks who have been doing this since the 90s, for example, it may be new to them. I think for people who are young, Generation Z, for example, they're living with this new mode of operation right now, right? And so they're going to be the ones who take this thing, forwards by leaps and bounds. But we all need to make this trek. We all need to make this transition into this new way. And if you're not using technology in your mediation practice, you're basically being left behind. You're falling behind because you're not giving your parties all the new tools that have now just been made available to all of us. Some thoughts on that?
Um, and importantly, nothing changes the mediation context. Everything, nothing about AI or online or Zoom or it doesn't change that it's a voluntary process. They
Yep.
can leave at any time for any
So
reason or
confidential.
no,
Yep.
or
Yep.
it's confidential.
Yep.
Nothing will get out. It won't be held against them. It's not admissible
Yep.
in court. Uh, and that they retain complete decision-making power. I tell every party in mediation, you have a veto over each and every word of any settlement.
Yep.
Doesn't work for you? You don't need to sign it, okay?
Correct.
So it's already a remarkably empowering process, just those fundamentals. We're not changing those, but what we're doing is assisting people to be ever better informed and also to consider what might be an optimized set of solutions for them. And wow, a wonderful thing for the world of mediation and optimized problem solving. Yeah.
So I like what you said about prompts and prompting right so that people can get from AI, really good results. It's all about what you put into it. Okay, good queries. Can you just speak about the importance of this again and how folks need to know how to talk to the AI to make sure that it can help them in the mediation practice?
Um, and this is the thing the mediators are good at, is asking questions that embrace the whole and embrace each participant. So, initially, of course, let's let them ask whatever they want to ask. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But assuming that they're not getting settlement on that basis, we can at some point wonder with them about whether we can possibly improve or at least add to the inquiries. Okay. Now, one thing I want people to be aware of is you can use one AI platform to ask, how can I best use other AI platforms? All right. And there's something to say for being willing to use ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude. I like the fact that I'm going to get three somewhat different answers because of the dissonance between them creates a space of possibility for the folks. So, number one, you can ask one AI platform how to best work with the others, but you can also work with multiple. Also, you may have a library of helpful helpful inquiries. For example, if they have children, how can we best do a schedule for children this age to this age? So we can have a whole library of constructive inquiries that they can simply click on and get valuable information. There's a really weird concept. I don't know if you know this one, Mac, determinism in AI. So every time you ask AI a question, let's pretend we ask ChatGPT the exact same question 5 minutes apart.
Hmm.
We're not going to get an identical answer.
Yes.
It develops the best response in its mind, if you will, from scratch each time. Again, that dissonance, it's all going to be constructive and positive and helpful, but the dissonance uh, prevents people from getting too righteous, about particular things.
Yeah.
So that's one concept, is the ability to work with multiple platforms. I also suggest, when you're a mediator, you're many things. It's really fascinating. One of the things you are, I believe, is a coach. A coach to assist these people to get through this difficult situation as constructively and pleasantly and positively as possible. We're also a leader. And the reason I know we're the leader of the mediation team is we can't have any particular party be the leader of the mediation. It's got to be the mediator. And so, with these really powerful assets and opportunities available to elevate people's information base, and consideration of possibilities, I almost think in many cases it would be malpractice for a mediator to not reasonably assist people to consider AI. Now, let me create one contrast that I do think is meritorious. In some big bucks, complex disputes where folks have got plenty of attorney assistance and historically would rely on legal counsel as the spokesperson, and in fact, rely on legal counsel as being the empowering agent. There are, classes of cases that I've worked on, multi-million-dollar cases, where it's pretty easy to say, I'm going to at least start off and let the attorneys, do their best job to assist. Okay. But what happens if the attorneys are not seeing possibilities? What happens if they're actually kind of taking people over a cliff, based upon false assumptions? What happens if they're not really communicating with the other side in a way that's constructive and helpful and likely to, so it's a very minimally the consideration of participant empowerment and even attorney empowerment, I think, is appropriate. I would agree that it's a little bit of a different calculus when we have the real parties in interest only present and perhaps legal counsel in the background as an advisor, or there the issues of empowerment and are much more pronounced. Okay, so
Yeah.
mediation's everywhere is the reality. There are a variety of cultures of mediation. How you would work with AI depends on the culture of mediation that you're practicing in. But to the extent that we want to grow our field, that we want to make it comfortable, safe, and attractive for Joe and Joan Bag of Donuts, to bring their ordinary dispute, their landlord tenant, their business, family business dispute, their divorce, whatever. To the extent we want to create comfort and confidence in these folks, it's all about empowerment and participant information, optimized problem solving. I think we can bring a good measure of that to pretty much any mediation, but I do want to acknowledge if folks are represented by legal counsel and if they're paying that attorney hundreds of dollars an hour to be their spokesperson, we may not be as forthright, with our AI stuff, but it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of that mediation, we might in fact bring up issues of AI.
Mm.
And in fact, what we find may form a part of the rationale for their ultimate settlement.
Absolutely. And so a lot of really powerful things that you said. And I think rationale and how that plays a role into our psychology when it comes to getting settlement is a whole nother topic that I would love to talk to you about one day.
Yep.
So let me stop it there. Thank you so much, Jim Melamed. I am going to share my screen one last time to remind people if you want to watch the full video, it's the digital evolution of mediation, AI integration, and the future. And it's on the Will Work for Food YouTube channel. So check it out. And of course, Jim's provided the PDF and the audio brief and the bullet points. And so very informative there for a lot of people. So thank you so much, Jim, for coming on the LMI podcast.
Matt, thank you for the work you do as well.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Until next time, everybody, check this video out and all the other ones on the YouTube channel or lmipodcast.com. Take care.